I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform. This is a series that Dr. Peter Glidden and I have done for the past several years. The goal of what we do is to empower you with information that you're never going to see, hear, read, or experience through the bought-off lamestream fake media. Why will you not get this information through big media? Well, how about this? All you have to do, and I encourage you to watch as little of the bought-off lamestream fake media as possible. But if you turn on the tube, and I predict that within 30 minutes of you turning on the tube, no matter what the channel, you will see an ad by Big Pharma or Big Insurance or Big Medicine. So this is the reason why they will not discuss what Dr. Glidden and I do on this platform, because their survivability is dependent on the moolah that they are making from Big Pharma, Big Medicine, and Big Insurance. And what Peter and I do is we provide you information that empowers you and thereby enhances your health and your wellness. Peter Glidden is one of the top, if not the top, naturopathic physicians, not just in our country, but the world. I have 32 years experience on the front line of healthcare delivery and am a researcher in prevention-related interventions. Big Pharma, Big Medicine, Big Insurance despises that guy and this guy because we tell you the truth, the facts, the data, and the science. And today we want to focus on your longevity and your health that doesn't involve Big Pharma, Big Medicine, Big Insurance, but things that you can do, in particular with something called olive leaf, to enhance your longevity and your health. It's my honor to welcome back my friend, Dr. Peter Glidden. Peter, welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform.
Hey, thanks a lot, David. It's always a pleasure to be here speaking truth to power. It's unbelievable, man. It's right. You're absolutely right about the whole TV thing. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out, right? So if the pharmaceutical industry is throwing hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising money at big media, not just TV, how objective do you think big media is going to be in reporting alternatives, quote unquote, to pharmaceuticals to the people who need to know that information? They're not going to be, because they're in the pocket of the pharmaceutical company indirectly. So, and again, it becomes truth by consensus. So, you hear it 100 times a day on TV that, your high blood pressure is genetic, that your heartburn is uncurable, that the best hope that you can possibly have is the pharmaceutical method, and you believe it after a while. And then people look around and, son of a gun, well, everybody in the family's sick. Everybody in the family's taken 6 different prescription meds. Everybody in the family's had 3 or 4 different operations by the time they're 65. So you think, having no real perspective on the situation, that, well, life is just a great big bowl of medical horror. It's only a matter of time until something breaks, and I might as well get on board the pharmaceutical train because, well, what other option do I have? As it turns out, there are tons of options that people have, but they're not being reported in the mainstream. I just came back from, I just completed this weekend 13 hours of continuing education credit. So, I need 25 hours a year of continuing education credit to maintain my license. And it was very refreshing and very remarkable to listen to my colleagues with the information that they brought forward and their clinical experience and, breaking news and new stuff and kind of old stuff that we really need to be reinforced in all the time. It was very inspirational and very inspiring. And the take-home message that I'd like to report real quick to the listening audience is simply this, that when you have an illness. Let's say, for instance, you develop high blood pressure.
Okay.
Well, you go to a conventionally trained medical doctor, and they will see that your blood pressure is high with the blood pressure cuff, and then they'll give you a pharmaceutical to manage it. But the blood pressure is not the illness. The question is, what was happening in the body
To cause the blood pressure to elevate.
to make the blood pressure elevate?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the naturopathic profession attempts to figure out and fix, because it's always better to fix the cause of the problem than just to manage the symptoms. And yet management of the symptoms is what passes for the best medicine in the world, and that's all that anybody has any experience with. And oh, those naturopaths, oh, those chiropractors, oh, those homeopaths, oh, those herbalists, oh, those Ayurvedic practitioners, they're just back of the bus quacks with substandard, dangerous, unscientific training. It's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, that's the meme that everybody's been socialized into. And again, it becomes reality by consensus. So it's an important thing to understand here that if you have a symptom, a prudent person would attempt to uncover the cause of the symptom and fix it, rather than just medicate it with pharmaceuticals. And, you know, I mean, thank God for Novocaine and insulin and all that, but there's a point where that just becomes a theater of the absurd.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of my colleagues he gave a report about a woman that came to see him. She was on 65 different prescription medications.
No. Oh.
65.
Oh.
By the time he was done with her, and 2 years later, she was down to 4. And had, you know, a remarkable improvement in the overall quality of life and dramatic symptom reduction. But, you know, this is the way that it is in the inside out, upside down world of Alice through the looking glass, 21st century, everything, including medicine. So all right, I'll get off my soapbox now, and let's talk about the good herbs, super olive health, because there's a lot of traction there. There's a lot of things that people need to know.
Well, let's talk about that, because there are so many different aspects to this when it comes to olive leaf. You know, my first introduction about olive leaf did not come in medical school, internship, residency, fellowship, or actually the first 10 years I was in practice in medicine. Actually, my education on olive leaf initially came from a patient. And I mentioned this, is a patient who was a farmer. And he sustained a very bad injury, broke his leg, bone came through the skin. It was in a barnyard, very contaminated area. We washed things out, operated on, fixed the bone, and we sent him home on antibiotics. He had IV antibiotics while he was in the hospital, went home on antibiotics by mouth. He comes back to see me after a week, and his wound's looking great. And I just did the check in with him to say, okay, well, so now you're still taking your antibiotics? And he kind of looked at me and he goes, well, no. You know, no. Why aren't you taking your antibiotics? Well, I take something that's whenever I get into infection or potential, I take this, and it's called olive leaf extract. And I'm like, what? He said, well, I did. He said, well, yeah, and that's what I did. I stopped the antibiotics at you, and I got at the hospital, and I've been taking this. And I said, well, he had a really contaminated injury, and my experience tells me that taking the antibiotics is the way you should go with this. And he looked at me, goes, well, thank you, appreciate the input, but this is what works for me. Why don't you research it? So I did.
Yeah,
comes back the next week. Frankly, I read about it, and it was very impressive what I had read about it. But I was thinking, well, this is a barnyard injury. This is, comes back in a week. We look at the wound. We open the cast. We open the wound. Look at it. I look at the wound, and it looks great. He goes, how does it look, Doc? I go, it looks great. He goes, yeah, doesn't it? Right? So he healed great. Bone healed great. He got through it without an infection. But Pete, from that point on, I became a firm believer in olive leaf.
Well, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, right?
Well, yeah. And then when you do research and you look over time of what is behind olive leaf and the results,
Yeah.
it's very compelling.
And here's what happens. You're absolutely right. And by the way, this is the only reason my profession still exists, right?
Yeah, because it works.
Because we get results.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it's science-based, clinically verified. But, two different people can look at two different things, or can look at the same thing and have two completely different conclusions from it.
Correct.
Right? Like there's a pastor, and he's driving down the road, and he sees a drunk person laying in the gutter on the side of the road, and he thinks to himself, oh, that person has sinned, and this is God's retribution. And then an ex-alcoholic is driving down the road, and he looks at exactly the same person 2 minutes later and go, oh, that son of a gun, I was in exactly his same shoes 5 years ago. I know what the problem is, and he'll stop and pull over and try to help him. It's the same data that people are looking at, but they interpret it in completely different ways. So here's the problem, or here's the phenomenon that exists right now. So, you can't argue with science. You're welcome to your own opinion, but not your own set of facts. So there will be research, for instance, on olive leaf extract. And they see that there are 100 different chemical constituents, phytochemical constituents in this plant. I just made that number up for example. And they'll also see that one or two of them seems to have a more profound impact, for instance, in this case, with killing bugs, right? Antibacterial and antiviral properties, both of which olive leaf have been proven to have. So a reductionistic scientist will look at that. They'll focus on those two phytochemicals. They will extract them from the plant. They will take them into a laboratory and synthesize them. Or they will grow a bunch of olive leaf, extract those chemical components out of the olive leaf, increase their concentration, and then put them into the medicine that they give. These are called standardized herbal extracts, standardized botanical medicine extracts, which means that the researcher thinks that they are smarter than nature.
Yeah. That they figured out which two are the key, or three, or four.
And let's forget about all the other 98.
All the other, right.
Had nothing to do with anything, right? So when you do that, which is what, and again, I'm making up numbers here, but it's at least, this is a conservative estimate, it is at least 75% of the botanical medicine supplements currently available in the marketplace that has been done to. And you'll look at the label, it will say olive leaf extract standardized to contain X amount of oleo-European or whatever it is, right? If you see the words on a botanical medicine supplement, standardized to contain, do not get it. Because the scientist is trying to outsmart nature, and that never works. I was at a really fascinating naturopathic conference about 5-6 years ago, way before COVID. And there were two students who they were seniors at naturopathic medical school, and they had done a research program at the schools, and they were looking at just this phenomenon. They had standardized botanical medicine extracts, and they had a botanical medicine extract that was just all the naturally occurring substances and all of the naturally occurring ratios. And they used them to kill bugs on petri dishes, which is really simple, easy, pretty good science, right? It's repeatable, easy to measure. And every single time they did it, the stuff that was standardized
didn't do the job.
Did a little bit of the job, but the stuff that was just naturally occurring, that had not been screwed with, I mean, it was unbelievable. It was 100 times more effective, right? So, and this is what Good Herbs brings to the table. Because Good Herbs doesn't mess with it. Number one. Number two, Good Herbs only harvests organic stuff, wildcrafted. Number three, Good Herbs pays attention to what parts of the world does olive leaf grow in that gives it the most bang for its buck? And that's Mediterranean olive leaf. It's different than olive leaf in the United States. It's just different. So when you pay attention to these variables and then you harvest the stuff correctly and you extract the stuff with the high grade alcohol instead of the low test alcohol, and you do it for 4 to 6 to 8 weeks instead of 2 weeks in the right temperature, then you get a superior product, which, like the stuff in the laboratory experiences, produces remarkable effects. And whenever I start thinking about pharmaceuticals and botanical medicines, I'll never forget somebody told me this, I think when I was a freshman or a sophomore in naturopathic medical school. It was in a botanical medicine class, and they said, well, God made herbs and man made drugs. Who do you trust? Right? So botanical medicines hold a lot of promise, but when conventional scientific brains try to wrap their heads around it, they mess it up because they mess with the formula and they don't understand that that nature is doing this for a reason,
right?
And that it would be prudent to pay attention to that. That's what we pay attention to. So when we pay attention to that with olive leaf, guess what happens? Okay, hold on to your hats, folks. Olive leaf extract has shown remarkable benefits in the management of blood pressure. As a matter of fact, it showed exactly the same response as Caterpillar, which is a pharmaceutical for hypertension. They did a blinded study where they gave a bunch of people with hypertension olive leaf and a bunch of people with hypertension Caterpillar, and they got the same results. But of course, none of the negative side effects from the super olive leaf. It increases the health of the artery wall. And the health of the artery wall is important because if your artery wall is unhealthy, you become a candidate for plaque formation. Right? You get clogged arteries.
Right.
It's not because you have arteries. It's because you have unhealthy arteries.
True.
Right? So it's shown great promise with keeping the arteries healthy, blood sugar management. This is all this one plant. This is one little lonely plant. You know how many plants there are in the world? But I digress. So olive leaf extract slowed the digestion of starches into simple sugars, and it thereby slowing down the delivery of sugar into the bloodstream, which makes it much easier for the body to handle sugar metabolism. Remember, sugar isn't the Antichrist. Sugar is the gasoline of the body. Your body loves sugar. Your body needs sugar. The problem with sugar is how much are you swallowing at any moment in time? And does your body have the capacity to metabolize it? You can overwhelm the system with sugar pretty easily. I think we eat 500 times as much sugar a year as we did 50 years ago in the United States. Not by like putting sugar on things, but just because of all the sugar that's in the things that we eat.
Right.
It's a tremendous thing. So guess what? Olive leaf helps with that. Olive leaf also helps with slow down the progression of Alzheimer's. What the heck? That's pretty important. Alzheimer's is skyrocketing now. And if you look at the projected number of people who are going to have Alzheimer's in the next 20 years,
it's off the charts.
It's like a plague.
Yeah, true.
So guess what? Super olive leaf supports and protects healthy nerve function. It reduces something called oxidative damage to the nerve cells, which is a really good thing to do. If it's kind of like putting on a warm coat when you go outside in cold weather. Well, that's a smart thing to do. Well, taking olive leaf is also a smart thing to do because there's so much crap in the air and the food and the water now that these things are causing oxidative damage in the body, oxidative damage to the nerves, oxidative damage to the brain, oxidative damage to the blood vessels, to the arteries, oxidative damage to the kidneys. List goes on and on. Super olive leaf cuts all of that off at the knees. And talking about the knees, it's also shown benefit in rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, and gout. This is one plant. Does all of these things. Now, if you were a scientist and you saw all of these data and you had a good head on your shoulders, you would go, oh my God, I need to raise $200 million to research this, because this one little plant right here all by itself could be a tremendous boon to sick and suffering humanity. Let's rally around the flag, boys. Let's figure this out. But no. Because like we talked about in the beginning, Big Pharma don't like that.
No. It's all about the bottom line. It's all about the bottom line.
100%. And the bottom line with the pharmaceutical method is don't cure anything, manage everything. So if you never cure anything, guess what? You need the drug for the rest of your life. Oh, and then drug number 2. Oh, and then drug number 3. Oh, and then more of drug number 1 because it stopped working. And then, drug number 4. And the list goes on and on. So it's unbelievable to me that a medical profession, a medical industry is a better way to phrase it, a medical industry which delivers such unbelievably poor results. Alzheimer's skyrocketing, autism skyrocketing, heart disease levels unchanged, obesity through the roof, arthritis going up. Everybody's getting sicker, not better. Life expectancy is getting shorter. Autism, are you kidding me? 1 out of 50 kids now autistic? It's orange is the new black. Sickness is the new health. Everybody's sick, and I know why, for goodness sakes.
Hey, there's a good book. There's a book. Wait, there is a book. Wait, there is a book written with that title. And you wrote it. Everybody is sick, and I know why.
Cracks me up whenever I hear somebody say that title.
But but it's true. Frankly, but frankly, that I've mentioned this before, but truly that book, Everybody's Sick and I Know Why, and Attempt to Cure with a Holistic Medicine, of which you also wrote, are the foundation of our medical library in my home, should be in everybody's home.
It's very kind of
you. But you're not, well, no, but that's true because of the content of the book. And frankly, it's information. You can take those books to your doctor and just open it up to any page, either of the books, and just read. Doc, I want to read you a paragraph from this book. And no matter what the paragraph is, your doc will look at you and go, huh? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I just talked to a patient this morning. I do a lot of telemedicine now, and it was a 45-minute consult. And halfway through the consult, the person stopped me. It was a 41-year-old female. She said, you know what? I've been dealing with medical doctors my entire life. This is the first time, number one, anybody spent more than 5 minutes with me. And number two, I have never been asked such a comprehensive set of questions before. She was practically in tears talking to me. Not because Dr. Glidden's so special, but it's because the type of medicine that everybody's used to is, quite frankly, from my perspective, juvenile and ridiculous. It is impossible to get a purchase on what to do to heal somebody's illness, to stimulate their body's built-in God-given ability to fix itself in a 5-minute visit. You cannot do it.
Impossible.
And yet that's what passes for the best medicine in the world, right? So honestly, David, people don't know what they're missing, right? And that's why I wrote those books. That's why I have the information at drglidden.com, all the online information. That's why we have all the stuff at Operation Freedom Health. Because these are simple concepts. They're not.
No, they're not.
You got to be a PhD to understand this. These are simple concepts that nobody's ever been taught.
True.
And everybody needs to know it. And so that's why I really look forward to spending time with you, because, maybe 5,000 people will hear this. Maybe 1,000 people will really pay attention to it, and maybe 500 will take action on it. And that's something that's going to build on itself.
Well, and speaking of building on itself, we always talk about the foundation, of which olive leaf, in this case, builds upon that. The foundation being the 90 essential nutrients, minerals, that we're not getting in our food because the soil has become so depleted. And this is where we've discussed this in a number of videos, but it bears repeating because it is the foundation of everything that we speak about for people's health and wellness, that they need those 90 essential nutrients they're not getting to, if you will, be the foundation of their health and wellness.
So the 90 essential nutrients and the dietary discipline is like tuning up your automobile. You put air in the tires, change out the oil, change the transmission fluid, change the filters, change the spark plugs, calibrate the computer, right? Do all this stuff. That's like the foundation. And then things like Super Olive Health, that's like, those race car drivers, the Fast and the Furious, all those movies they make, those guys are racing those cars and they get really close. And then they've got the can of nitrous oxide and they push the button and it injects the nitrous into the fuel line and the car goes like 100 miles an hour in 2 seconds, right?
Right.
That's what the olive leaf is like.
Right. That's right.
But you got to tune the car up.
Right. And without that, you're going nowhere fast.
Yeah.
And maybe even reverse. Right.
So that's why all of this works. It's not rocket science. It's just simple, straightforward. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Common sense. Wear warm clothes in cold weather. Okay, I get it. Take the 90 essential nutrients. Okay, I get it. Don't put diesel fuel into an unleaded engine. Stop eating food that's hurting the body. Okay, I get it. And well, my blood pressure needs a little support. My arteries need a little support. My nerves need a little support. Okay, I get it. I'm going to take Super Olive Health. And so get the Super Olive Health and take it.
And Super Olive Health and the foundation packs and everything we speak about and have spoken about is available at OperationFreedomHealth.com. Full disclosure, purchase of the products and OperationFreedomHealth.com does support this platform. In addition, there's video, the 12 bad foods that you shouldn't be eaten, free on top of the webpage of OperationFreedomHealth.com. We have other information on everything else we've discussed over the past several years on OperationFreedomHealth.com. And for more in-depth information and analysis, you have drglidden.com. Educate our listeners about drglidden.com.
Well, that's where you go you want to take a deep dive into this pool. You really want to surround yourself with a community of like-minded souls. You become a subscriber to my info, you're going to get access to 2 hours of live chat with me every week. Not every month, not once a year, not once a quarter. Every week, 2 hours of live chat with me, plus immediate access to hundreds of hours of videos. Like, for instance, there's no relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. How about that? Mm-hmm. That osteoporosis, you don't get osteoporosis because you have a Fosamax or a Boniva deficiency.
All right.
And the list goes on and on, right? And the thing that I need to make him to underline here, just by way of buttoning this up and bringing it to a nice little close, the thing that separates my information from everybody else's is because it's clinically verified.
That's right. That's right.
I see patients all the time. I continue to see patients all the time. I can't ever imagine retiring, honestly, from this job because I love what I do, and I can effect a tremendous amount of change from my chair talking to people all around the world, for goodness sakes. Sometimes you need the hands-on stuff, you do, but a lot of times you don't, and there's a lot